afternoon, Cabinet Secretary. Does the Cabinet Secretary agree that if the Westminster Government delivers on the Welsh Government's justifiable demand that Wales should not lose a single penny following Brexit, it should be the Welsh Government that decides which projects receive that support rather than the EU?
Well, I entirely agree with the member that if the UK Government does what those who advocated leaving the European Union said would happen, that's a guarantee that Wales would not lose out by a penny, then the decisions that would be made as to how that money is best used are best made here in Wales. The First Minister has already given an undertaking that if money comes to Wales for purposes of regional economic development, we will use it for those purposes. If money comes to Wales to sustain our rural economy, it will be used for those purposes. But the specifics of that are best made here rather than in London.
Thank you for that answer, Cabinet Secretary, and I agree with you that those decisions are best made here rather than elsewhere. Obviously, the Welsh Government and we in Wales have a much clearer idea of what Wales needs and what the Welsh people want rather than a distant EU and the committees on which we only have 3 out of 350 members, such as the Committee for the Regions. Yet your government continue to advocate involvement in the EU, even if we have to enter into reciprocal agreements and obligations with, and therefore the priorities of, the EU as a condition. So as the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, aren't you obliged to work out the best way of funding the priorities of the democratically elected Welsh Government, which should reflect the priorities of the Welsh people, as opposed to the priorities of the democratically deficient EU? Because to continue to advocate involvement in so much of the EU following Brexit, that goes against what you said to my colleague Neil Hamilton yesterday when you claimed that you respect and will deliver on the Brexit vote.
Well, the fundamental difficulty with the member's question is that she blurs the line between the fundamental decision, which is to say that we are leaving the European Union, we will not be members of the European Union after the end of March next year, and the form in which we leave the European Union. It is possible to leave the European Union in a way that does maximum damage to our economy. That is well advocated by people in this chamber whose prescriptions for Wales would leave us, as I say, with an economy between 10 and 8% lower than it is today. Or we can leave it in a way set out in the White Paper that the Welsh Government and Plaid Cymru jointly published in January of last year. That policy offers a way of leaving the European Union which does not, as she suggests, turn our back on the decision of the referendum, but which mitigates to the greatest possible extent the damage that would otherwise be done.
Thank you for that answer, Cabinet Secretary. I'd remind you that you and the other Remainers spent the entirety of the EU referendum campaign telling voters about the doom that would supposedly hit us if they voted to leave and if we severed control of the EU over our affairs. Yet they still voted to leave. They either didn't believe you or they considered that independence would be worth the scenarios you said would take place. Since then, you've been treating the electorate, as other Remainers have, as if you're thinking, bless them, they didn't know what they were doing. Well, I've got more faith in the intelligence and understanding of the Welsh voters, and therefore I ask you, don't you agree that ending the control of the EU over the affairs of Wales and the wider UK is what the electorate want, and this is what you should be advocating and working to achieve?
Well, I just repeat, really, the Welsh Government from the day of the referendum accepted the decision that was set out in the referendum. We have never quarrelled with the fact of Brexit that was determined by people in a vote. Our focus is on the form of Brexit always. And I can tell her this, that when I knock doors in parts of my own constituency where people undoubtedly voted in large numbers to leave, they will tell you that they did not vote for the sort of chaotic, self-harming form of Brexit that she and other people in this chamber advocate.
Question 3, Paul Davies.